Good morning, everybody, or in some instances, I already see good afternoon. Um, it is Tuesday, January 13th, and everything is still horrible in the world, at least for those of us here in the United States. If you're somewhere else, maybe things are a little bit better. But right now, obviously, not so great here in the US. And of course, part of that is because our president is falling apart at the seams. Donald Trump is not a well man. And that's not a shock to anybody watching this. Like, you're going to hear me say that and think, well, yeah, we know this. But there were several instances over just the last few days where Donald Trump put on full display for everyone to see both his mental and physical decay. And I do believe that is what we need to refer to it as. It's not decline at this point. He's not just going down. He is decaying. Part of it, part of the mental decay, obviously, we discussed in the Monday live stream, was when he got up in the middle of that meeting this past weekend, just got up talking to oil executives, started looking out the window, talking about his ballroom. Couldn't stay focused, couldn't stay on topic, couldn't keep his interest while talking about his conquest of another country. So he just got up and moved on to his own thing. And as I've explained a lot in the past, my grandmother suffers from dementia. And what I saw Trump do at that meeting is exactly what she does. I mean, it can be in the middle of dinner. And she'll get up, she'll go outside, she'll start looking at things and talking about things right in the middle of dinner, just totally, off on her own. And so when you kind of live with these things or see them frequently, as I do, you recognize them when they happen. Okay, there is no mistaking what happened at that meeting this weekend with Donald Trump. That is dementia. It's not possible dementia. It's not, oh no, I think there's decline. This man clearly has a disease. Clearly. There's no doubt. Absolutely no doubt left. And the mental health professionals, of course, have been warning us about all of that for months and months and months. But now it's to the point where the White House cannot hide it. It's to the point where Donald Trump cannot be left unaccompanied. He always has somebody there with him to kind of either take over, to maybe guide him, but he didn't at that meeting, and that's what happened. But we got another instance of this weekend when he was aboard Air Force One. We actually got several. He was asked about J.D. Vance's claim that the officer that killed Renee Good had absolute immunity. And instead of giving any kind of coherent answer, this is what Trump said. Everyone's seen it. A woman who's very violent. She's a, very radical person. Very sad what happened. Her friend was very radical. Okay, you were asked about absolute immunity. So the reporter pressed him again, like, no, we're talking about absolute immunity. And Trump said this verbatim. This is what he said. Well, I'm going to let the people define it, but immunity, what knows means as well as I do. I'm going to read that again. This is not me stuttering or messing up the words on the page. This is what the President of the United States said, the words that came out of his mouth again. I'm going to let the people define it, but immunity, what knows means as well as I do. That is a direct quote from the 79-year-old President of the United States. You know what immunity knows what I mean, do well. And we're just gonna act like that's totally normal, that this is what a human being sounds like when they speak? No, that's dementia. And also, it's slander. So the friend that Trump is referring to, who he goes on and on about her too. He also said this, by the way. It was highly disrespectful of law enforcement. The woman and her friend were highly disrespectful of law enforcement. So apparently that'll get you killed these days. If you're disrespectful to law enforcement, just right to the head, right? No, that is not a capital offense. It's not an offense at all, actually. It's not illegal to be disrespectful to anyone in the United States of America. But he continues. The woman and her friend were highly disrespectful of law enforcement. You saw, and he's repeating himself over and over, also a symptom of dementia. You saw that they were harassing them, were following for days and for hours, and I think, frankly, they're professional agitators. I'd like to find out, and we are going to find out who's paying for it. Well, we know who paid for it. Her name is Renee Nicole Good. But by the way, again, that is slander. She is not a paid agitator, as Donald Trump claimed. That woman can absolutely and should absolutely sue the president of the United States for slander. Because what he is saying about her is absolutely untrue. He knows it's not true. He knows he cannot back it up. He should be sued and put his demented ass on the stand and let him vomit up a word salad while in front of a jury. I would love to see that. And that woman right now, I know she's going through a lot and probably the last thing on her mind right now, but she needs to make that happen. She has the ability to do it. Again, not right now, like wait, I know obviously, but that's what needs to happen. And for the record, that wasn't the weirdest thing that happened to Donald Trump on board Air Force One, because at one point, he basically told us that he's not steady enough to stand up anymore. He said this: I'm looking for something to grab here because it's going to get rough. I think you did this to me. You put me in a position where there's absolutely nothing to grab. So I'm looking for something to grab, and it's not going to be Caroline, talking about Levitt, who was like right behind him, because he can't be left on his own. So she's now standing with him, even when he's talking to reporters aboard Air Force One, which used to be his like private time with them. But he's telling us like, it's going to get rough up here. I can tell, I can feel the turbulence coming. I mean, the pilot didn't come on and make an announcement like, hey, we're about to experience some rough air. Trump just assumed we were about to get some rough air up there. And was like, I need something to hang on to. Wait, you put me in, there's nothing to hang on to. If you yourself or one of your parents or grandparents, depending on your age, were in that situation, you would be in that situation because you would realize in my state, my physical state, I physically can't do this. I can't stand up on an airplane. Now, everybody who's flown before knows the turbulence can be rough, obviously. And if you happen to be one of those folks from even standing in the bathroom at the time of turbulence, yeah, it can be difficult to stand. I'm not going to deny that. But there wasn't turbulence at the time. He was just on a smooth flying airplane. And he suddenly freaked out, realizing I can't stand up anymore. This is not good for me. I need something to do because my body can't handle this anymore. He is decaying. And again, I think that is the word we all have to start using. No more decline. No more impairment, it's decay, physical and mental decay. We've seen the physical decay. We've seen it with the blotches on the hands. We have seen it with his inability to stand properly, which is also a symptom of dementia. We've seen it with his inability to walk. But now with the I can't stand up physically anymore without holding on to something, the interior is decaying more and more. Right? The muscles, the bones, all of it. I mean, from the inside out. From the inside out, the body appears to be falling apart. And the administration still continues to tell us that, nope, this dude's the healthiest person on planet Earth ever. This is what a person should be like, right? A person who says things like, what immunity? What means, well, no, how, me, no, not me, you, maybe. Yes, these are all normal and good things for the guy with his finger on the nuclear button to be exhibiting to the world. But that's where we're at. A feeble, decaying president of the United States. And honestly, at this point, by the end of this year, we're going to be in a weekend of Bernie's type situation. Okay. You're going to have Pete Hegseth on one side and JD Vance on the other, like propping him up and have his face wrapped like, no, he's got a toothache and he can't speak anymore. That's where we're headed. It may not even take till the end of this year. We may see that by the end of this month at this rate, because not only is he decaying, but the decay is accelerating. Some super chats here. I saw Scorpia ZA. Thank you very much. Said you were late to the stream. Hey, it happens. I was, about 30 seconds late starting it. Been a really weird, rough morning for me. Almost my entire house is down with some kind of illness. Between the rest of the family members, there is a stomach flu, there is a sinus infection, there is a staph infection, and there is strep throat. And including myself, there's 5 people in the family, 4 illnesses, and I'm the only one that has nothing. So it's a matter of time probably before I end up, knowing my luck, I'll end up with all 4 of them at once instead of, just everybody who has one. I'll get all of them. But yeah, it's not great times in the Cousins house at the moment, just due to all of the illnesses floating around outside this door that's like right here. I'm safe and sound in here. I feel horrible. I mean, they're really, it's a sad situation. But yeah, a couple more super chats here. Back Bay Boogeyman says, what would it take for Trump to finally get 25th? And how would MAGA morons still defend him most likely? Thanks, Farron. You have to have JD Vance in a majority of the cabinet. And that'll never happen. I mean, even if Donald Trump, as I pointed out Monday, even if he comes out, starts wearing his underwear on his head, they're going to be like, no, that's the trend. We're all going to do it. And they'll start doing it too. So they will never 25th Amendment him, ever. I believe. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but it's not like that leaves us with, much better people running the government here. Another super chat here from Thomas said, please feed him more Big Macs. Pretty please, from DK. I agree. Like, Trump loves McDonald's, and as you get older and, especially if you do have dementia, you're looking for the comfort, you're looking for the familiar. So really the best thing in the world we can do for the guy is make sure he gets as much McDonald's as possible. Like, 5, 6, 7 times a day if we need to, but let's keep him comfortable. Let's keep him happy. So keep the fast food flowing there, White House, because you don't want him to get upset. And, if whatever happens from people who eat fast food all the time, hey, at least he goes out doing something he loved, right? We're going to move on because I got a story that I really need to talk about because this one impacts each and every one of us. Hang on. Sorry. Typically go through these without having any, coffee or anything as I'm speaking. And then after 30, 40 minutes of talking, I lose my voice for the rest of the day. So trying to avoid that. Earlier this morning, we had a segment go up about an hour ago talking about the investigation that Jeanine Pirro has launched into Jerome Powell. Well, there is now more to that. So even though that segment has only been up for an hour and 15 minutes, we're going to do an update for it because this is very important. On Monday, Shortly after it, of course, was revealed on Sunday evening that Janine Pirro has launched this investigation into Fed Chair Jerome Powell. On Monday, exactly as predicted, the value of the dollar dropped. The value of the dollar dropped, of course, because the global markets now view the United States Federal Reserve as not being an independent entity. They view it as a wholly owned subsidiary of the Trump organization, which has the potential to wreck the entire US economy. And not just do organization, which has the potential to wreck the entire US economy. And not just do what Trump's tariffs did, where, oh God, we're feeling this pain, but if we get rid of the tariffs, then hey, pain's gone. This is a pain that could take decades to overcome. This is a pain that may never go away. Because if Donald Trump's interference with the Fed, which of course is obvious at this point, if it continues, and we actually have a good indication, a 100% confirmation that it will continue, the value of the dollar could drop to the point where it no longer becomes the global currency that it is. It would no longer be the gold standard. A different form of currency would take its place. Once that happens, the only way for that to change back is if that other currency experiences the same devaluation. So, once it happens, it'll be 50 to 100 years before the dollar takes over again as the global currency, if it ever happens at all. That is how impactful this is. That is how important this issue is. And Jessica Burbank actually put out a really great video where she talked about the fact that Jerome Powell sucks. He is god awful. Okay. And that is absolutely true. And also, him standing up to Trump and still trying to exert the independence is good. So we can praise what he's doing at the moment without saying Jerome Powell is a good guy and we should defend him. We shouldn't. He's a piece of crap. That's why Trump picked him to begin with in 2017. But he understands what's at stake. But here's the kicker. Here is the reason why I say that we have 100% confirmation that Trump's interference with the Fed is only going to get worse. It's because Powell's term ends in May. And he's gone. Once that happens, who gets to pick the replacement? Oh, it's Donald Trump. We are doomed. Now, I don't want to be like, oh God, everything is horrible, but it is. There's no sugarcoating this. Donald Trump is most likely going to pick his own economic advisor, Kevin Hassett. He will take over. The dollar will plummet just like we saw happen this week. And that'll be the end of it. That will be the end of it. I don't even think at that point that we'll be talking about a potential recession. I think we're looking at depression. We're going to be entering depression territory at that point. I hadn't realized that Powell's term ended in May. And I would have spoke with a little more urgency had I realized that. But this is about as bad as it gets. There could be a little bit of a resistance, though. Obviously, you have Republican Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina, the same guy who a week ago said, I'm blocking all DHS nominees because of Kristi Noem's incompetence, came out this week and's like, I'm going to block all of Donald Trump's Fed nominees because of what he's doing here. I'm not going to let him replace Jerome Powell. So Tom Tillis, believe it or not, in the Senate, Republican, a very conservative Republican, by the way, kind of seems to be one of the leading voices in opposition to Donald Trump. So again, he's not a good guy, but what he's doing right now with Noem's Department of Homeland Security and Trump taking over the Fed, I don't know, maybe the only resistance we get It's a really sad day when Tom Tillis is standing up to Donald Trump more forcefully and frequently than Chuck Schumer, right? Where's the Democratic leadership? Where are those guys? When was the last time you saw them like forcefully come out about anything? Anything. Oh, a couple of statements after the death of Renee Good, sure. But they're not putting up fights like this, certainly not publicly, to show the rest of the Democratic Party that, hey, look, we're not just sitting idly by, we're doing something about it. And look, I don't want to be over here crapping on the Democrats when, that's the best hope for the future. But come on, guys, speak up, speak out, and you be the ones saying we're going to block the nominees. You be the ones in the headline showing the fight against this fascist. But as per usual, you've sat back, you've let Tom Tillis take the lead on it and on the Department of Homeland Security issue. There's no excuse for that. There is no excuse for allowing the conservatives to put up a bigger, more public fight than you are. But that is exactly what we've come to expect from today's Democratic Party. Some super chats came through. I want to get to these. Let's see. This first one here is from Paul Gustafson. Says, did you see Kimmel's ice capades last night? I saw headlines about it. I did not watch the clip, unfortunately. But Kimmel, always on top of things. I love what he does to this administration, and I love the fact that it always gets under Donald Trump's skin. Scorpius, another super chat, thank you, says, do you think Trump, for those around him, goal is to purposely devalue the U.S. dollar? I can't think that even the most MAGA would want to devalue dollar. I don't know. I don't think he's smart enough to understand what he's doing. I think he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room and everybody else is trying to sabotage him. But he's wrong as per usual. So he's going to keep doing it because he thinks he's right. And he thinks everybody else is lying to sabotage him because he's paranoid as well as, narcissistic and demented and all of that. The paranoia is also pretty great. And that is, of course, one of the, psychological aspects of Donald Trump that does not get discussed enough in terms of everything he does. But he's overly paranoid. So he thinks they're trying to sabotage him when in reality, of course, they're trying to not have the entire, country implode financially. V-Man, good to see you, says, did you watch the Steelers implode last night? I did watch most of the game, and wow. For those of you who may not know, the Steelers got their butts kicked by the Texans 30-6. They couldn't get a touchdown, even with Aaron Rodgers being brought in this season, of course, to help them get over their playoff slump. And no, just absolute. And that was likely, Aaron Rodgers' last professional game as a athlete, which I'm fine with. Aaron Rodgers used to be a really decent guy before he got so effing weird and went on the Robert F. Kennedy thing. But many, many years ago, actually back at Ring of Fire, I did a segment because Aaron Rodgers was one of the few people that actually spoke out openly against the Islamophobia that was happening in the NFL at the time. He came out, did this whole thing, and it was like, holy crap, he did really great. So he used to be a good guy, and now he's not. Hey, Joshua RZ7XO says, F off, libtards. And then he did a bunch of emojis with poop, cry laughing, and middle finger. Okay, that's constructive. I know you like all the little pretty pictures that come up. Those are fun, right? And they're colorful sometimes, and that helps you think. It's just like when you log off of here and you go back to your little coloring books, except you got to do it on a computer screen, which is so crazy cool that it's all digital for you. So I know you're really enjoying yourself, Joshy. But please go back to your coloring books and let the grown-ups keep talking here. Thank you. Let's move on. Because Donald Trump is not just destroying the United States economy, he is not just destroying global stability, he's also hoping that poor people die of preventable illnesses. While he was aboard Air Force One this weekend, Donald Trump also let slip that he plans on vetoing the Obamacare subsidy extension that many Republicans broke ranks, voted with the Democrats to extend last week. He says he is considering a veto of legislation that would allow low-income people to be able to afford health insurance. That's smart, right? I mean, the guy who tells us that he cares, he ran on this so-called populist message and, wants people to pay less for healthcare is now saying, no, I'm going to do the exact opposite of what I campaigned on, the exact opposite of what everybody in this country wants. I want you to pay more. And if you can't pay more, I want you to not have health insurance. That is what he is telling us with this statement of, I'll just veto it because to hell with the poors, right? I mean, maybe you should have thought about health insurance before becoming poor. Our demented president of the United States, who has access to the best healthcare on the planet, tells us. Look, if it were not for Donald Trump's money and, of course, the care access that he has as president of the United States, he'd be living in a home right now. Or he may not be living at all. If he were just an average, everyday, even middle-class guy with his countless health conditions, he wouldn't be around anymore. His money has bought him life. His office and the power that comes with it has extended his life. Which, of course, is funny because that's government-run healthcare. But he wants to take that same ability away from people who were not born into the lap of luxury like he was. Now, the Senate, by the way, still has to pass these Affordable Care Act subsidy extensions. They have not done it yet. They may not do it. And then Trump may not have to veto it. But honestly, not voting for these subsidies is effectively signing your own political death warrant. The public wants them extended. MAGA wants them extended. So anyone stupid enough to vote against these subsidies deserves the electoral fate that they are more than likely going to suffer when they have to go back and tell their constituents, maybe this year, maybe 2 years from now, but they're going to have to explain to them why they kicked them off their health insurance, why they made them have to die early because they could no longer get preventative care. Well, I hope they have their answers ready because that's not going to be a pleasant conversation, but that's what they're setting themselves up for if they vote against this in the Senate. Trump obviously doesn't have to answer to voters ever again, and I think he's kind of come to that realization, and that's why, of course, he's being more extreme and more crazy along with the mental decline or decay, that he's experiencing. So we're seeing a lot of that happen. But one more thing. Chris Matthews, former MSNBC host, still goes on the network every now and then. Typically have not been a huge fan of Chris Matthews, but he did come out this week on MS Now, which is weird and stupid. I hate the name, but anyway. And he actually said something that I think bears repeating. Here's what Chris Matthews said about this year's midterms. First of all, I think the Democrats are poised now to pick up 30 seats in the House. I do that based upon the margins that have been pulling off in these recent elections. 13-point pickup beyond what the expectations were. That was true of all of this, including Tennessee and Miami and everywhere else. I also think that if you look at Roy Cooper in North Carolina and you look at Sherrod Brown in Ohio, it looks like they can win those states. They can win. the time has probably come for Susan Collins to check out, Republican from Maine. I think you can only get away with being the wrong person in the wrong state for so long. I think she's going to have to lose up there, just like Bobby Casey in Pennsylvania lost. Sometimes you just run out of time for your candidacy. So a potential, according to Chris Matthews, 30-seat pickup for the Democratic Party in this year's midterms. Now, that's actually a bit of a lowball estimate, by the way. Other estimates are saying, it could be 50 or, a little over 70. But those are still big numbers. I mean, even if we can only pull off a 30-seat victory in November, that's still quite remarkable. So I did want to share that. I do think it's important. I do think we need to occasionally have a bit of good news in this, morning barrage of just horrible things. But that's good news. Another super chat here. Thank you very much. It says, quote, Emperor's New Groove. It's no concern of mine if your family has, what was it again? Food? Ha! You should have thought of that before you became peasants. Super chat here says, greetings from Dallas. Hopefully this helps with treats for the fluffs. Thanks for being so informative all the time and giving some hope right now. Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate that. I try to be positive every now and then when you can. I got a lot of recording to do for the rest of the day that is definitely not going to be positive, unfortunately. But, you take the good with the bad. And even when you talk about the bad, I do try to at least add a little humor to it, whole spoonful of sugar type deal. Maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't, but, I do what I can, and I really do enjoy what I do. That is all the time that I've got for today. Got to go take care of the family. As I mentioned earlier, everybody but me is very ill, so gonna go do that. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. Got tons of great content coming up throughout the rest of the day, starting in, 28 minutes. So make sure you stick around for that. Share the content, right? That is what is important right now. Continue to grow the audience by sharing it with new people and share it on any platform, right? Go put it on Facebook, stick it up on Instagram, put it on Blue Sky or Threads, put it on TikTok if you want. But let's get everybody coming over here, getting informed every day. And until then, I will see you guys tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central. Have a good one.